say the body is a temple, but in Leisha's case, I'd say it's more of an unmarked grave. She spit out more potential children than a dig site at a residential school.
What did you do when you heard that joke? Did you cringe? Did you laugh? Did you groan? Were you offended? It doesn't matter because it's just a joke. But even if you were really offended, would you agree with sending a death threat to that comedian?
If you want to fuck around, you're going to find out.
Would you agree with sending threats of arson to the venues where he would be performing? Because that is exactly what happened to the Danger Cats, a 3-person comedy troupe from Alberta. What happened after a recording of that joke was published online was a firestorm whipped up by a cancel culture mob.
Want to be Danger Cats? They're putting themselves in danger.
The mainstream media funded by Justin Trudeau and the state broadcaster that resulted in a portion of their recent Canadian tour being canceled and then rebooked and rebooked and rebooked.
They're not welcome. Their racism isn't welcome.
A comedy show supposedly coming to Winnipeg is drawing criticism from the Indigenous community and fans of comedy, and they're calling for what's being called a racist comedy act to stay out of the city.
Today we'll hear from the Danger Cats. We'll hear how they are surviving this firestorm and how they refuse to bow to the cancel culture mob and censor themselves.
A new Westminster comedy club has canceled a planned show that some say is offensive, including the families of victims of convicted serial killer Robert Pickton. The situation even caught the attention of the Premier.
I just really encourage this group to think carefully about this sad attempt at humor.
The group is Danger Cats, a comedy act touring across Canada and boasting a big social media presence. Some of their material has caused outcry, including using residential schools as a punchline, and the shirt they've sold making a joke out of Pickton victims.
Hack, what is the Danger Cats?
Well, the Danger Cats is an idea that stemmed from my kitchen in a one-bedroom apartment from Sherwood Park that was a way to promote a brand that I initially had called Forte Hockey. And that stemmed into doing oil field-based content about 8 years ago, and is now stemmed into a group of comedians.
You didn't need the chair? What the fuck was that?
And Danger Cats is really, I hate to use the word, but it's like an ecosphere. It's like a whole universe. So it's podcasts, merch line, live performances, videos, TikTok. You're really everywhere.
Try to be, yeah. Try to be, you know, like it's all a joke. It's just a big goof at the end of the day. So as long as it's fun, funny, somebody's gonna laugh at it, you know? That's the goal.
And you really sort of thrived through COVID. A lot of comedians were struggling during COVID. A lot of venues shut down, but from what I understand, you guys pivoted.
Yeah, we did live performances too. We did whatever we could to make it happen, you know?
You went out of the country, if I recall?
Yeah, we went out of the country. We went underground. We did whatever we could to bring people together to laugh. And, you know, maybe that makes us outlaws in the comedy community, but I'd rather have it that way than, you know, play by the rules.
Our stolen native land, true patriot's blood.
It's cemented in 2021 when our government told us that we are not allowed to travel.
Get vaccinated, and you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people.
If I'm not allowed to leave, how come I can book a plane ticket? How come I can get travel insurance? And how come I can get an Airbnb in Texas? And that was where the three of us went down, had a vacation down in Texas, and that was when the bond formed. And we realized with the amount of fun we had down there and being around like-minded individuals that are highly motivated yet hilarious and aren't on this trip of like sex, drugs, and rock and roll and blowing your opportunities. We formed a fellowship together, and we were like, we were going to go back to Canada and we were going to do the best shows that we can do.
You remember it? How are we going to explain what we have been through the last 2 years to the next generation? This is something I think about. It's kind of fucked up, right? 2 years we spent in the gulag, okay? Masked up, right? It was eyes only. It was a Saudi Arabian summer. Right?
How do you end up in the Danger Cats?
Good question. This is something I ask myself frequently.
My whole Facebook page is littered with people calling me a racist because of your joke.
I know,
and
but
your merch.
This is where it comes with the territory. If it wasn't happening, if it wasn't happening now, it would be happening later.
Survival. I joined Danger Cats for survival because that was 2020, right? 2020, and there's no shows. And it was hard enough to get 70 people in the room on your own. So comedians started kind of pairing up if they were smart. My pairing kind of dissolved, and only 2 people really had my back in the industry. So it seemed like a good fit.
Man, you a fucking, man, with your little piece of shit comedy, man, you better chill out with that, man. You making fun of our residential school survivors, man, about that unmarked grades, man. This is gonna get you fucking slapped around, man. And you're gonna get us charged with the police and shit. Go ahead, man. That's your guys' bullshit, man.
Where do we get to with this latest tour that you guys were on? And it was more controversial than normal, which is saying something for you guys. How do you end up at the eye of this hurricane where you've got the CBC saying that if you do a show in Winnipeg that Indigenous women are going to die? Like, how do you end up there? Because on the outside looking at this latest tour of yours, doesn't seem all that much different than the ones before.
No. I think they're scared of the laughter. I think that they're scared of unity through laughter because we're breaking down the walls of, maybe you came in with a different idea in your head of what society looks like, and because we throw it around in a humorous way and be like, oh, we're not so different after all.
The only thing that we've done in the last 2.5 years is the shows have gotten better. The jokes have gotten better, we're tighter as a unit, the production's there. And what it is, I know exactly what it is they needed a fall guy. When I say they, I am talking about the government of Canada, is they cannot control laughter, and they hate that. You can't control what people laugh at. And as soon as people laugh at anything, it destroys whatever carefully crafted narrative and inversion of reality that that's the world we're living in, is an inverted reality where no means yes, yes means no, men are women, women are men, there is no gender, and everybody's a bad guy. And this is horrible, and it's not like that. And laughter completely destroys that.
Chris, I'll tell you what. You want to roast battle me? We do it in a fucking club like human beings, not like some second-class citizens. I got news for everybody here. Second class is the new first class.
Tell us about Winnipeg. You say you're getting death threats, venues canceling on you.
Hi, Britt. It's Janet from Yuck Yucks Winnipeg calling. Brett, we do have a huge concern. Due to controversy, we're going to be pulling this show.
What happened there? How do you all of a sudden go from, well, I've been to your shows in Edmonton, sellout shows, everybody's happy, laughing, having a good time, to all of a sudden having to find a venue last minute, find another venue last minute, and being the eye of this storm of cancellation?
Yeah, Winnipeg was the first domino to fall, and it set a poor precedent for the rest of the venues, and I wish they would have had a backbone. The founder of Yuck Yucks has a backbone, but his individual owners do not. They're like franchisees, they're like Subways, and there's only so much power he has. So when Mark Breslin comes on the news and says, like, we stand behind free speech, and they just had 5 sold-out shows in Niagara Falls with not one complaint, that was nice to hear, but it ultimately didn't affect Winnipeg's decision to still firstly cancel the Danger Cats because of, I don't know, maybe 20 to 100 emails. And they're in a nice hotel with a 5-star Michelin restaurant, and you know, they got a lot of things to think about. So I was like, it's kind of understandable. So they want to back away from Danger Cats, and they want to do a patch job by just having Brett Forte do the show, because I've done it before for them and been actually their favorite comic. These ladies took me to the spa the next day, and they're like, when can we have you back? And, oh, we hear you're touring with these Danger Cats. We'd love to have them. They knew there was a money-making opportunity. They did their research, and no one could have predicted what would come and when it would. And so when it did, they did their best job to go, okay, we're just going to have Brett Forte, and then that way I get to still honor the contract. It was a good one. We're just finally moving into, normally comedians get paid like $250 a show to headline a Yuck Yucks. You do 3 shows, you make $750 if you're lucky. Your flight was not covered there. You better have merch to sell, or you might just break even. So now we're on door deals, and the first level is you get like half the door, and then you start getting 70, 80% of the door. We were at something like an 80% door deal over 5 shows over the weekend. So it was going to be good money. So I wanted to keep that contract alive. So I go, okay, I'll still do the shows. Get the fellas paid. They don't even need to be there. All bases covered. And I said, but you're going to have to update the language in the contract, because it's going to take these people a couple days after they celebrate, oh, Danger Cats got canceled. And then they're going to go, wait a second, who's this Brett Forte? Oh, wait a second, isn't that the guy in the, well, this isn't right. And then they're going to get mad, you're going to get more emails, and then you're going to want to cancel me. So normally a cancellation clause has a 3-day thing. If you cancel within 3 days, you get $500 per show. I said, you got to scratch that days out. It's $500 per artist per show canceled. And sure enough, they had to, because of more threats. They became violent. And so they back out of it, and thankfully the contract was in place. And for this gig, we get paid more to not perform than to perform.
And we will be back in Winnipeg. You don't tell us where we can and can't go in our country.
And it's what makes it fun. I think a lot of other comedians would probably just lay low and shut up. That's what I was told to do when I got my first cancellation in 2020. I was told to firstly, apologize. My manager's like, here, I wrote your apology, post this on Twitter. I go, no, we're not apologizing for this. No. And then the next call I got, he goes, hey, I got Mark Cuban's PR guy on the phone. Hang on. It's like, what? Like, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks. I'm a huge Mavs fan. So I'm like, okay, I'll hear this guy out. If it's good enough for Dirk Nowitzki, it's good enough for me. All right, let's hear about it. And this guy told me, he goes, this happens all the time, and my professional advice is that you do 21 days of silence. 21 days, and it'll fall off the cliff. The clicks will just fade away. People won't care about it anymore. And that's one way to handle it, but this brand is a little bit better at leaning into things and standing up for ourselves. And I think now, after being through it once and having some regrets of how I handled it, this time I'm doing a better job of kind of not only standing up for ourselves, but fellow comedians. I know the comedians themselves are trying to cancel us, but they don't understand that if we go down, what chance do you have?
What's your reaction to Yuck Yucks moving forward and canceling those shows here in Winnipeg?
Class act, absolute class act. And the fact that they responded so quick, and there were people in my friend group and acquaintances and mutuals on social media that I didn't even know sent an email as well, because I just put it out there, and I didn't even share like an email or like, this is how you get them canceled kind of thing. It was just like, oh my gosh, Winnipeg, these guys are coming here, like, let's try and do something about it. And everyone just kind of went to work. So I had people, you know, yesterday morning sending me screenshots of Yuck Yucks, sending everyone, you know, an email saying like that it was canceled. And so I'm very appreciative for such fast work.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, danger cats have got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, danger cats have got to go. No pride in genocide! No pride in genocide! Shame on you, danger cats! Shame on you! And this is a fucking joke.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Never had to been escorted into the back of a venue before. This is outstanding.
Check 1, 2.
Shame! Shame on the police!
Check. Yeah. Distortion right there.
Yeah, there's like a little
distortion.
And fuck you guys!
It's tough to fill a 10-minute set, you know, that's 3 minutes and she's out. I mean, now she understands. It's a tough job. Now she's stretching. Now she's going to do crowd work. It's not an easy gig.
Are there any other families here that want to say anything? Or anybody else of our supporters? It caused a lot of heartache and pain, especially the t-shirt referring to my cousin as a flavor.
The situation even caught the attention of the premier.
I just really encourage this group to think carefully about this sad attempt at humor.
Torture, what these people are putting families through. My grandson is 27. He never knew his mother. And you sit and you wonder what they could have been. What they were supposed to be. But that was taken from them. All the women who were taken at that farm.
So now I see why people are upset. Like you're saying about we're not too far off, like the people that are angry at this, like I'm angry at it too. And that's why I tell the joke.
No, I'm with you on that, man.
And I want these people to be remembered because I know in their darkest, grimmest moment that a lot of them are nameless still. And there's ways to find it. And I'd like to think that in their darkest, horrorest moments, there's still laughter happening from their terrible tragedy.
Yeah.
And people are remembering it.
Robert Pickton is the most prolific serial killer in Canadian history, and he is up for a parole hearing. After 25 years in Canada, you get what's known as the faint hope clause. And old Robert's up for his faint hope clause. And this was a way of distracting from, he's got his parole hearing coming up. We haven't done jack squat to do anything about the problem that created Robert Pickton. And they're actively destroying evidence from the trial. Because, you know, technology doesn't get any better 30 years down the road, and they could easily identify many more of the bodies. Like the most expensive forensic investigation in Canadian history, and they found more than 170 different victims, were able to positively ID about 50 of them, and then he went to jail for 6. And there is no way on God's green earth that there was one person involved with that much of a disappearance. So also you look at Piggy's Palace, that was the after hours club on the Pickton farm, that anybody who's anybody from the 80s and the 90s partied there. And there is a very long, sordid history. Artists, you name it, everybody was partying there. And they want that to disappear. And when a guy like me puts out, like, I market myself as the apex sexual predator. I am the ultimate bad guy. That is the character I portray on screen and on stage. And what better way to do that than get an endorsement from the world's or Canada's most prolific serial killer? That was the whole point and joke of the t-shirt. And I wanted people to remember that this guy is still alive and still sucking up your tax dollars and probably living pretty high on the hog compared to other people that are still disadvantaged and are disappearing from the downtown east side today continuously. It has not ended with him. And for the premier of BC to come in and give his 2 cents on what he thinks is funny is probably one of the greatest jokes I have ever told. And for the media to show the t-shirt unblurred and to say the t-shirt said Picton Farms, over 50 flavors of hookery smoked bacon. They said that a dozen times on a dozen different newscasts. That means that when they were editing it, it passed standards and practices, and an editor and a producer and the top guy said, run this on daytime television. This is G-rated. So I did my job, and for as many people coming after me saying that I am profiting and I am not sensitive to these women, I am most definitely sensitive to them. And I think as a comedian, I have done more in my short career to bring awareness to this egregious crime against humanity than any other comedian that's out there by telling a joke and remembering these poor lost souls that some of the family never even knew that they were gone.
As for the Picton shirt, they say it has been removed from their store, and they're donating proceeds to Ukraine. CBC News reached out to the group, but didn't hear back right away.
Even after the fact, there's now consequences of having us on the show. So it isn't just about one night only. It's about, it has to live with the stigma and the threat of violence of doing that. So now we have law enforcement involved in what we're doing. So this is Canada, so this is active censorship of comedy going on right now.
I just saw the post where it's like, hate speech, you can go to jail for life. That's half my set.
All of us expect to be safe in our homes, in our neighborhoods, and in our communities. We should be able to expect the same kind of safety in our online communities.
Bill C-63, I never realized that the C in the bills coming out of Canada stood for communism. I didn't realize that.
And so a lot of comedians are scared of the Human Rights Commission. We've heard about comedians being taken before the Human Rights Commission because of offensive jokes. Why aren't you scared of that?
Well, I had an MMA career before all of this, so I think that maybe a few concussions and CTEs settled in, and I don't really understand the circumstances or like what they can truly do to you. So that's probably a blessing in disguise, you know? You get punched in the head a few times, you start forgetting that rules apply.
No, you could stand to lose everything. You know, if you get dragged before one of these human rights commissions, is it maybe because you have nothing? Like, I'm joking, of course, but... Oh,
I have nothing. So if you're trying to take anything from me, trust me, there's nothing there. You want a 2002 Buick and a 1-bedroom apartment, by all means, take it.
Are you worried about censorship legislation, like Bill C-63? I mean, you could be charged criminally for a hate crime. You could be fined by a Human Rights Commission if Justin Trudeau gets his way. Are you worried about that?
I wouldn't say I'm worried because, first off, this regime, whoever's running the thing, whether it's Pierre Polyamorous or Jugmeat or Justin Christ himself, none of these guys can organize their way out of a wet paper bag, and I would like to see the jackbooted thugs knocking down everybody's door that's shitposting on the internet. It's never gonna happen. There would be too much of a flood, and if you do send me to the gulag, We'll start a gang and meet up. Neat. And I would like to see them deal with us on the inside, because then you start a prison gang and you go on from there and the problem gets immensely worse. You look at anything that's ever happened with mass arrests in communist countries. That is how they've eventually been infiltrated and exploited. There's not enough prisons in this country to arrest everybody that wants to laugh at a good joke. And we've been doing outlawed jokes on outlawed mics, and if they make us martyrs, then I will die a happy man. I think that that is something that would last the ages. I would be the Achilles of stand-up comedians if I were to be arrested for telling a joke.
Well, I don't think it matters who's in charge, because Canada, if to do good in comedy is to leave, is to graduate. No one stands and fights. We're kind of standing and fighting right now, but we are planning on leaving. Like, I will always love Calgary, my hometown, and will champion it across the world and come back to it and have shows and bigger and better shows, but it's not the end all in this country, regardless of who the leader is. If it's him, I know what you're getting to, Bill C-63, yeah, okay. Then to shorten my answer, jail. That's the future of comedy in Canada with that guy in charge, is jail. And it's not even just, maybe not jail, but certainly stiff fines. So $20,000 fine plus a $50,000 to the government yeah? So to me, it's like, there's no more Bitcoin to mine, but there's certainly a lot of hateful comments on the internet. And apparently each comment pays half a Bitcoin right now, 20 grand. So that's gonna be a full-time job. And it already seems to be one right now. People who are professionally outraged and they make it their whole personality. And that's where they find their tribe, with other people that are like, yes, we do need to live a more wholesome life, and this is the way, we need to get rid of these bad people. And, you know, it's just all the little pigs grouping together, trying to get rid of the big bad wolf, is how they see it. And it sounds like they're gonna be paid handsomely to do it in the future.
Yeah, it incentivizes outrage financially.
Yeah.
So what's next for the Danger Cats?
Jail.
Remember that offensive joke I showed you at the beginning? How do you feel about it now? You heard this story. We've got the cancel culture mob on one side, the mainstream media on the other side, and very, very soon, we will have the federal government with Bill C-63 to enforce it all. With the slate of censorship legislation from Justin Trudeau already in place, and his newest online harms bill right around the corner, it's never been more dangerous to be a truth teller or a joke teller.